This is Reshma from People Matters, and we are back with another exciting session of our webcast in partnership with Naman HR on the topic People Dimension for Quality Culture. We all know that new dynamics are forcing the industry's HR functions to rethink their people game plans. Therefore, HR needs to play a vital role in quality as it is more of a cultural issue rather than just technology or process. In this webcast session, we will deep dive into understanding the importance of examining quality sustenance from a people perspective and how an organization could nurture will and conviction among people to develop and sustain a quality culture. To take us through their expert views, we have today with us Mr. Ajay Bhatt, President, Global Human Resources, Intas Pharmaceuticals. He's a global HR leader with rich experience of leading and driving change, acceleration, and integration in large, complex, and fast growing organizations. Welcome, Mr. Ajay.
Thank you.
So we also have with us Mr. Samir Parekh, MD and CEO, Naman HR. He's a renowned mentor and coach, a charismatic leader, uh, and a speaker and an internationally acclaimed leadership trainer. Samir has delivered over 5,000 man days of training, lead over 40 critical HR and OD assignments, and personally coached over 25 leading entrepreneurs and senior management executives. So we have saved time for you to ask your questions to our speakers at the end of this webcast. For those who are live, can simply post their questions at any time during the session in the comment section on the right hand side of the screen. We will respond to as many questions as time allows. So, without any further delay, let me invite our esteemed speakers to take over. Welcome, Mr. Samir and Mr. Ajay. Over to
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Reshma, and thanks, People Matters. Thanks, Ajay. It's really pleasure seeing you after a long time on this screen, and thanks, People Matters, for hosting this entire event. Yes, this is a subject which is very, very close to my heart, and I'm aware, Ajay, very close to your heart too, because you have been from a pharma industry where quality has really played its predominant role, and with the kind of regulatory pressure which is there all around, I'm sure you have had some of the first-hand exposure and experiences of managing those scenarios. Uh, the whole idea about bringing this topic of quality culture and the people dimensions of quality for quality culture is to understand how this quality culture is impacting the organization, how HR function can play a very important role in creating the quality culture. See, the issues about quality we all know. A lot of data already available. Of course, well published research based on CB's research, which was published by HBR, it gave a very interesting data point that where there is a highly developed culture of quality, on an average, the organization spends less than $350 million annually fixing mistakes than a company with a poorly developed one. So I think it's very important for organizations to spend their focus, their energy, and their thought processes on creating culture for quality rather than just setting up various apparatus. Traditionally, quality is being seen as a responsibility of various quality related functions. Quality control is started, quality assurance it is there, and yes, other production elements. As we go ahead, we now discover that yes, there is a lot to do with the people, a lot to do with the human errors, and that's where the whole focus of HR functionaries become very, very critical. And I'm sure Ajay, you would agree with me. In the boardroom discussions, when we discuss about quality, there are more people issues discussed than the technology issues. So it's very important for us to discuss this particular subject as it is impacting organizations across the globe, across various sectors. And yes, when we are looking at quality culture, what we are going to look at, I mean, what do we what happens then we feel that yes, there is a well developed quality culture, some of the manifestations. And that's where we feel that if there is a proactive communication that takes place in the organization, if the messages, if the information is being is reaching out to right people in a proactive manner, if the SOPs are vibrant enough, if the SOPs have that kind of depth, if SOPs are loud enough for reaching out to all those concerned stakeholders, making them aware and creating that importance for SOPs and upgrading them from time to time, if the organization is allowing, is on the contrary appreciating ownership for mistakes, if at all those mistakes do happen, because I have in my career personally seen organizations where the consequences of acceptance of mistakes at times is so high, and these are not the mistakes which impact organizations overall output, but even though it may be in process some minor mistake and the consequences may be severely high, that people may not own up and they may start hiding those mistakes. So I think that's very important that we promote that culture that yes, hey, openly come up and accept your mistakes if at all that has happened, what we call human error. The conversations need to be credible, the openness, the candor that one has in those conversations, where if there are challenges of organization not able to provide any formal channel for sharing views for variety of reasons, from logistics to infrastructure to other social reasons. Such conversations even between manager and subordinate would help create that kind of quality culture. So is the organization having good credible conversation? Then that means that yes, the organization is having quality culture as part of its DNA. How much is the spread of tacit knowledge that is happening in the organization? So that is another way and methodology to look at the development, the maturity curve of quality culture in the organization. Is Are there platforms available where people constantly acquire tacit knowledge? This is beyond SOPs. This is beyond experience. There are many situations which happen for the first time, and are they able to spread that tacit knowledge in real time basis with others? What kind of platforms are existing for aligning leadership and people across the levels, including bottom of the pyramid? Very important that the ownership for quality must rest at multiple levels and not just at one or two single levels. And therefore, the alignment of the feelings, alignment for actions, alignment for thoughts, as we call FAT, must happen between various levels of leadership and people who are executing, people who are operating, people who are producing, people who are servicing customers. And last, but certainly not the least, and probably one of the most important aspect is rules are necessary, rules are required. The research is say that the companies with well-developed quality culture do have a good practice of or good such examples of individuals going beyond rules with a single intention of maintaining quality, sustaining quality, giving highest priority to quality standards. And therefore, proactive communications, resonant SOPs, ownership for mistakes, credible conversations, tacit knowledge spread, alignment of leadership and people, rules and beyond. If some of these things are existing in the organization in various forms, in various platforms, in various interactions, meetings, corridor talks, we can then say yes, the quality culture is developed to a fair degree of maturity in this organization. How do we ensure that this quality culture needs certain focus from the people level, the mindset level? And that's where certain key levers for quality culture we need to understand. While enablers and skills, when we talk of enablers, automation, technology, resources, organizations are pretty good at. There is a strong focus on that. Also focus on skills as per evolving needs, as per the inputs they receive from within, from outside, maybe from regulatory framework, or based on the opportunities to practice. The skill sets continue to get upgraded. What is important is working on the mindset of people. That's where conviction and willingness comes into picture. An intellectual response and an emotional response. An intellectual response to understand the need for quality, whereas an emotional response to own up the quality. Uh, every single person across the length and breadth of the organization, when they start owning up the quality of every single product that is going outside or reaching out to customer, or every single dimension of service that is reaching out to customer, when it is owned up by everyone from quality perspective, um, of course we are there. But how do we own up? That's where that emotional connect is very, very essential, which is preceded by uh, intellectual response that yes, we do need highest standards of quality. When we look at conviction and willingness, how do we react to that? And that's where I just thought that it would be interesting for us to all know that in the organization we all are generally aware about what is required as part of quality. We do receive a lot of knowledge as to what needs to be focused on, but thereafter, based on various dynamics and processes taking place in the organization, we do see perception dilemma. Are these in my interest or these are not in my interest? We do see some of us testing with an intent to adopt that. Some of us testing, let me check what happens if I do not follow. Typical, as simple process as ERP. Also, when a new ERP is implemented, some of us do not move out from legacy with this kind of mindset as well, and say that, let me see what happens if I do not follow or if I delay that. Some of us wait for our supervisors to direct us, whereas some of us would like to own up and they don't wait for the supervisor. And that's where the whole goalpost shifts from compliance to commitment. Uh, I'm doing this quality behavior because I have no choice. That's compliance. If regulatory framework is getting stringent, if certain actions are inevitable, and I'm doing those or I'm demonstrating those behaviors, that's compliance. Often I have seen biggest challenge when the quality behavior is demonstrated out of compliance, out of compulsion. The victim is productivity, victim is output. And we say, often people saying high performance high compliance behavior is difficult, but the ones who are going with the commitment, for them high performance high commitment behavior, high performance high quality behavior, high productivity high quality behavior is not that difficult. So with this uh, background of the subject that we are talking about in terms of quality culture, I just thought that it would be good idea, Ajay, if we start discussing first certain basic aspects in terms of how HR role is placed in the organization when we are looking at quality culture. And when we are looking at quality um, as an important, not just important element, now it's a matter of survival for most of the organizations. So how HR can really play a critical role, because you have really been into strategic positions and risen from operational to tactical to strategic positions. So I'm sure you must be having a lot of such experiences and exposure. So if you can just share your views about how HR really plays a role in quality culture.
Thank you, Samir. First of all, let me Thank you and People Matters for giving me this fantastic opportunity. As I said in my broadcast earlier, I wish to learn more from you and many other participants rather than speaking more. But certainly will do my bit. And thank you for bringing up the whole strategic part of quality right up front, because it will really set the frame of context in our discussion. As you say that how HR can lead this agenda of quality. uh, Before I go further, let me state very proudly that I have been in HR in the pharmaceutical industry throughout my career. And
Okay.
the reason why I'm in HR, I'm in pharma industry because I believe I love this industry. This
Okay.
is an industry where you see the impact of your products and services creating a better life for the
Mm.
people who use it. You
Okay.
actually see it, and I think for us pharma professionals working whether in whether in R&D, supply chain, manufacturing, when you see your products making that impact to people's life, you feel proud about it. And
Absolutely.
so I'm coming back to quality and the way the HR is involved in this. To me, doing the thing right, living up to the trust of the consumers or the customers who use our product, ensuring decisions are not short term but enduring and long term, and
Mm.
most important, being proud of our products are some of the attributes which go into quality of any product. I'm not saying pharma. It is pharma, transport, consumables, FMCG, any products. They have an element of quality. Maybe sometimes it is in terms of safety, or sometimes it is in terms of features, but quality is fundamental underlying. This quality has been applied by different tools and techniques across diverse countries and different cultures or different industries. And they have different branding, different names across different cultures and different tools. But to me, quality is more important as culture, because it's awareness, it's advocacy, and depends on the organization, the culture, the society in which the practitioners of making products and services live. And
Mm.
so, uh, to your question that how HR owns this agenda, my first response to it is quality is not an HR's agenda. As an HR professional, I believe quality has to be an organization agenda.
Mm.
Unless and until the organization does not own up as a whole and as an overall organization as an organism,
Mhm.
quality would remain more to your point a
Mm.
compliance rather than a
Mhm.
commitment.
Mhm.
Yes, HR, but I agree, HR has a very important role to play, and the role which HR has to play has to be the organization has to be the function which is supposed to lead the change process. um, and own the change process, create a organization culture, create an organization environment where the shift happens from compliance to commitment.
Yeah, I think very important part you said about HR being quality being organization agenda and not just HR agenda.
Yeah.
Uh, and you as a CHRO, you have also worked outside India and also some of the European countries. What, according to you, is there any difference in terms of the way HR plays its role, or the organization looks at HR when the quality culture discussions take place? Do you feel that um, there is a greater expectations from other leadership team members in the organization when quality issues are discussed? There are greater expectations or higher expectations from HR uh, in India versus outside India, or outside India versus India? Do you see any such difference, or you feel at both the places there are hardly any expectations, or there are too much of expectations from HR as far as organization is looking at quality issues?
Sure. So I can tell you from my experiences,
Absolutely, absolutely.
uh, and it may not be generic, with all due respects, because different organizations, different countries, and different cultures and different
Correct.
industries would have practices which are different. Okay, so that's first
Absolutely.
part. Uh, in my experience, organizations, not organization or the leader, the scientific leaders in
Hmm.
particularly, or the technical leaders who are more handling quality, or the marketing leaders who are handling the delivery part of the product, they look forward and they always a challenge to deal with the part of quality where quality has to move from, as you say, a compliance to commitment. So, and that's where it has an angle of performance. And whenever there is a willingness or a attitude or a capability or competence attached to any performance, organizations and leaders tend to look for co-professionals, whether in form of HR, whether in form of different other functions, who can support them and who can help them navigate and make it easy know-how for them to get this deployed as a very broad commitment and strong commitment in the organization. So yes, a long answer to your short question. I do see that HR does have an important role to play uh, across the whole value stream of creating culture of quality, right from compliance to commitment. And it is up to HR actually in terms of which is that space they want to own. HR can own the space of compliance by ensuring that everybody goes through the SOP trainings when they get onboarded, do the checklist and all that,
Wonderful.
which is important. I'm not saying it's not. Please don't
Absolutely,
take
absolutely.
anything that's not important. That may be fundamentally the first step. Or HR can start partnering with the business in terms of moving up the value chain, in terms of what are the systems, processes, cultures, uh, and you mentioned many of them, which we bring to life so that the leaders, the managers, the employees, and the rest of the ecosystem of the organization also start having a pride of the product and services they make. Uh,
I think very, very important, and I'm just putting. I know. You have a very a strong, observation here, which I also echo because I have often seen in some of those QRC meetings or other quality meetings with many of our client organizations, or otherwise when I worked, I had an opportunity to attend many such meetings. Often HR plays a role of a custodian, or more of a transactional role, maintaining the record, making sure that yes, the numbers which are targeted we achieve, ensuring that the sequencing is done well. Whereas now, yes, as you said, the role is much wider in terms of how can I influence that entire process of building capabilities. And when we are talking of influencing entire process of building capabilities, do you suggest specific actions for either by HR or by the organization, which will build those kind of capabilities, eventually influence the mindset and shift that whole goalpost or whole focus from compliance to commitment in terms of quality? So, in your experience, and I'm sure there have been numerous occasions where you must have come across say, this kind of scenario, and if there are some specific actions which you recommend that HR should take up in terms of galvanizing this entire process of quality culture.
Sure. So again, uh, I have a very simple answer, 3 point, but maybe I'll step back and give you some live example of some of the
Sure,
experience which.
sure,
Uh,
sure.
uh, I'm not getting into the organization and time part of it, but I
Yeah,
was talking to
yeah.
one of my R&D leader
Okay,
at some point of time, and we are trying to understand the why how do we speed up our paper to filing process,
okay, okay.
typically in the R&D process. Okay,
Right.
and the conversations started from productivity and speed,
Mm-hmm.
and in 10 to 15 minutes of the conversation, we move from productivity and speed to the area of quality.
Okay.
Quote unquote, one of the sentence he says, I said, yeah. He says, yes, people believe that QPD is what is a template given by US FDA or any FDA. But to me, I mean to him, that's not QPD.
Hmm.
QPD is something which we have to design.
Hmm.
as a scientist. So when we are creating our design on the paper, I want me and my leaders and my
Okay.
scientists right to the bench to ensure that the design he creates for the first time is right on the paper, not even the prototype.
Okay.
He says every
Okay.
mistake we make is not
Hmm.
only in terms of the price and time we pay, but in terms of bringing my product and medicine later to the beneficiary of the patient. So at one shot, that leader taught me that quality is not something which is very innate to me and my product. Quality is because I have to service my customer and that patient is waiting. Uh,
Brilliant.
so, if I take back this whole thing into the way I look as an HR professional again, uh, I think as first and foremost as HR professionals, we have to spend that time to understand our business and its processes. Our
Very
ability
important.
to contribute or our ability to influence
Hmm.
the value chain of the leadership, saying, how do I help you from moving to be a compliance keeper to a
Correct.
commitment generator? That is where the journey begins first by understanding. Then we create that influence with leader. And along
Correct.
with him, we co-create that environment in the organization which can
Hmm.
sustain quality.
Okay. I think that's brilliant. Commitment generator. How do we become commitment generator? And I'm just sharing my own experience when the company where I worked, and thereafter some of the organizations where I have seen quality being driven at the highest level is that kind of I would say on one side to an extent intolerance to allow quality slippage discussions go unnoticed. So very often I have seen some of the organizations where HR plays a very important role in influencing the quality culture, that they also generate that kind of commitment by proactively sharing information, issues, or proactively raising those red flags that okay, here is the area where there is a possibility of quality slippage. And that's where it may not be technical, it may be as simple as like you come from pharma industry, a gowning principle, or as simple as in a telecom industry following certain protocol. So if a person from HR understands business very well, I think that is one winning point, that's for sure. In terms of influencing the culture, because now that quality is becoming so important and it is coming beyond quality control and quality assurance function, and as you and me are discussing, and I'm sure that's the tone in the organization, that it's becoming organization's agenda, and therefore HR must own up that agenda to build the capabilities. uh, do you think that when we are looking at improvement in this culture of quality, are there certain impediments, certain challenges, certain resistance that we face, and how do we handle those challenges? Because that's one of the biggest reasons I would say some of the HR function is also at times lose interest in quality culture related discussions or actions. What are those challenges or impediments you feel? Some
Thank
resistance.
you. Yes, Samir, honestly, your questions are very thoughtful and provocative. So,
Thank
uh,
you.
I had some standard responses, but each time you're asking a question, you make me pick up my pen and start writing. So please, please excuse me for that.
No, no,
Uh,
absolutely, no issues.
See, to the way I look at it, I mean, when you speak of challenges to call it, ensuring that you have sustainable quality as a culture, I see for any organization and irrespective of any industry, again, based on my experiences, broadly it could be in two categories. One is external, second is internal. So,
Okay,
and at this point of time, for lack of time, I don't want to get into the external part of it because they are HR can certainly play a part into that also by building those capabilities, but
correct,
that will become a topic by itself. So we'll just
correct,
park it for some time. Uh,
correct.
When you said, how does HR play a very important role in focusing on, in identify, in managing those
Challenges
challenges?
or right,
Correct.
resistance or challenges.
I think the first and foremost will be first one is identify those challenges. And if your question was what could be those challenges, uh,
Exactly.
I would possibly put these challenges into a more of a more of a gestalt part of an organization, a circular part of an organization. I'm not. It will contain challenges from the hierarchy perspective. It will
Mm-hmm.
contain challenges would be in perspective of the organizational infrastructure, systems,
Mm-hmm.
and processes.
Mm-hmm.
And challenges could be in terms of the organization's ability at a point of time, in terms of its economic resources and the way they
Mm-hmm.
manage their P&L. And challenges would be in terms of the way the overall organization is aligned and committed to quality. So each of these
So
areas
if
will see challenges.
Ajay,
Yeah,
if I think you divide it into four major buckets: the hierarchy,
correct.
the infra, economic aspects, the alignment of the leadership, and others. Uh, Again, to move more specific onto that, do you
Yeah.
think the major challenges are more at the leadership level rather than at the mid level, at the first line supervisory level, or at the bottom of the pyramid? Or do you think that the leadership is enough sensitive enough to these needs? The strong resistance is through at times a very loyal long working workforce which may have worked in a particular manner and may not have attached that kind of importance to quality as is being given now. Where do you think the biggest pocket where you face this kind of resistance, or it is more at the leadership level, the egos, the I know everything? Where is the real challenge or the biggest challenge? I know
Uh,
challenge is everywhere, but the biggest one.
so again, a good question, and I'm thinking how do I structure my response. The way I would structure my response to you is that see the way even before I'll respond in two parts. Part one is a preface. Uh, why are we so conscious about the cost of quality? I mean,
Hmm.
even in the recent HBR article, organization is focusing on terms of what is the impact of a bad quality product, and somewhere you quoted some numbers of 300 million for
Correct. Correct.
5,000, 350 million for
Right.
5,000 employees. The way I
Correct.
think about it, what is the benefit the organization gets in
Mm.
making a thing right for the first time?
Mm.
The value which the organization generates, not in terms of the goodwill, the quality of the product, and the way the product sustainability or service system is, it's fantastic. And there have been data and studies which says that such products which are having tremendous quality and good voice of the customer confirmations overrun or overlast even the best of the competitors. And you have seen products. I'm not talking about any
Right.
particular product because I don't want to give my preference on this particular platform. So keeping that as a view and responding to your question, the way I see that, uh, you are asking where is the resistance, where do you
Most.
see more an opportunity of change?
Correct.
Um,
Correct.
I see opportunity both places in the organization or multiple places. One at a leadership level, I think the
Hmm.
leadership has an opportunity always and has the onus and responsibility to set the vision,
Okay.
to communicate, to align, and then more important, to empower the organization and people right to the last person in the line to learn from the mistakes and also reward and recognize him and manage his performance in such a manner that he learns fast and doesn't keep on
Absolutely.
making those mistakes. Okay, so to me,
Absolutely.
that is the leadership opportunity.
Okay.
As far as the rest of the organization opportunity for managers and employees and the rest of the folks, the opportunity is to educate, opportunities to bring and create the organization know-how as fast as possible
Okay.
at the least cost in the best possible manner, and then
Hmm.
reinforce it.
Okay. Okay. In fact, since you are now part of Intas, a very large global pharma organization now spread across places, And I'm aware that, yes, there is a very strong focus on quality culture at Intas. Would you like to share some of the details as to what is being done at Intas to create and sustain? Because once again, creating is still okay. It is the biggest challenge is sustaining. The moment that the tempo, that focus, that discussion, the energy is moving from quality to something else, it may lose its momentum. So, how are you able to create and sustain this kind of quality culture? Because I'm aware in FDA and other things, I think there has been a fair degree of success as far as human errors are concerned. So, what has been some of the things which you have done at Intas or the organization has been doing at Intas
Thank you.
for quality culture?
Thank you. I like your clarification of what the organization has done. First of
Yeah.
all, so really appreciate that.
Right.
One or two disclaimers before I start responding to you, and it's for the many of my colleagues and co-professionals who are listening to me. At this point of time, I would possibly be very conscious that I'm not trying to advertise in any form or manner about Intas. I do love the company I work for. I'm proud of the kind of products and services we make and my colleagues make, but this is not a company advertisement. Uh, in terms of what has been the organization doing, we do so I would possibly put it at the leadership commitment level. Uh,
Hmm.
the way this organization and its leadership looks at quality is saying two things, which are very cultural. They say it is stated. Uh, Delivering a quality product and making things right for the first time is our fundamental responsibility in the line of business in which we are. So uh,
Yeah.
that's the kind of culture it has built over many years. And as
Okay.
you are aware, I have joined this fantastic organization a year back. So I
Hmm.
give this credit to my colleagues who have been in this organization for long, and they have
Hmm.
invested themselves in creating this fantastic culture.
Correct.
And
Uh,
very recently, just to your point, I'm
mm,
sorry to interrupt you.
mm.
As you
Yeah,
are
yeah.
aware, and you and your organization also, it was prior to my time, but I like to give credit to you and your organization.
Thank you.
Again, not making advertisement of your organization for rolling out that fantastic initiative called Nirman. Uh,
Mm,
so when I joined, I had an opportunity of reviewing that initiative and looking at
mm,
some of the KPIs, which were not, and the way I was looking at it was not in terms of KPI of what is made and delivered now, but KPIs around sustainability. And I saw to it that there was some fantastic KPI around sustainability of this quality initiative, which I could see, which was part of the culture, which
mm,
was being developed. And to your point about our ability to be successful among the audits, I would say that again the credit of it goes to our colleagues, each of our line operator, each of my workmen, each of my scientists, each of my production supervisor, including the site head and the overall site. It is their determination, their pride in the pride about the company and its products, and their owners that they would like to give good quality products to the patients. It is that's what delivering this, and most important. And when I ask them, they say we are lucky. Being very modest about what they are doing. So that's my response to your question.
okay. But I think in terms of certain shop floor related actions and activities, whether is communications which are taking place in the meetings or the kind of weightages that are assigned in the entire performance yardstick that you might have put in, or maybe the kind of training and development focus, or otherwise, do you think there are any uh, do you think something which are really working very well in Intas, and you feel that yes, this is something we should continue doing? That it may be internally being driven, externally it may be from HR, it may be from other functions, but do you think that it's a very interesting tool, or it's a very interesting method and worth emulating by many other organizations? After all, this webcast is also having a purpose of creating that learning environment requirement for all of us. So if at all it is possible for you to share some details, if not from sorry, if not from Intas, maybe your previous organizations, if some such practice you want to share.
No problem. And any of the things which I'm sharing, they don't have any IP. So I'm happy
Right.
to share. Okay.
Right.
And I'm sure what I'm sharing, many of my colleagues must be practicing and they must be doing better than what
Could be, yes.
we were doing. So, with all due respects. But from the way I look at it, there's multiple of things in organization and in both my current organization, previous organization, which I worked, I've seen being practiced very, very nicely. I think again the starting has to be right. Uh, that's where is the genesis of how do you create an organization which is sustainable over multiple years. And when you say starting is right, is that the HR and the hiring manager, again the HR should know. Again, I'll keep on going back to the same point, but the HR should know the business, and that's where the HR and the hiring manager should be
Okay.
able to set out the right requirements when they're going and hiring people.
Wonderful.
Making the first hiring decision right is very important, and
Oh.
that's where you do not only stick to your conventional processes of testing the functional capability, but trying
Correct.
to understand what is their emotional capability, what is their maturity. Use some kind of psychometric test is, but
Correct.
use all the tools of interviewing techniques by competency-based mapping. Do all the
Hmm.
stuff, but help a line manager to make a good choice as a first
Okay.
point.
Okay.
Second, having made a good choice, ensure that when the person comes on board, he moves from the journey of compliance to commitment in the shortest time possible. So,
Hmm.
how do you structure a very good onboarding program? Be it your contract manufacturing workman who does maybe the housekeeping work
Okay.
inside the shop floor, outside the shop floor, or it could be your machine operator, or it could be production supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
Tailored, curated onboarding programs, which are we start from the SOP, but more focus works on the commitment and how SOP and commitments are interlinked is very, very important. And the first 30, 60, 90 days have to be very strongly managed.
Mm-hmm.
The ownership of it that has not to be ownership of it, it has to be starting from HR, but has to pass it over to the line super line manager. That's the second
Mm-hmm.
phase.
Correct.
Uh, Setting the right helping the manager to set right expectations, communicate it,
Mm-hmm.
and ensure that he tries to give feedback, does
Mm-hmm.
corrective action in as much short time as possible rather than
Mm-hmm.
waiting for 6 months and yearly end review is
Okay.
something is what we practice very, very strongly. So
Mm.
to me, and there are many other practices which in terms of how do you then sustain or improve the know-how and the techniques and the scientific domain is the second part, but I'll pause here in case you have got any question.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. You brought two very important element of onboarding and acquisition, and I mean talent acquisition, and how fast we can shift him from compliance to commitment. At this stage, Ajay, there is a very interesting question for you from Pratyush Sinha, which if you can see on your screen as well, talks about creating pull effect among employees to build ownership for quality culture. Would you like to share your views? Could you see that question on your
Yeah,
screen?
I'm reading it.
Yeah.
My screen somehow is smaller, so I'm just trying to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can
Okay,
read it out once again for you if you
no,
want.
I did it. No, okay, sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, it is. How can organizations create a pull effect rather than a push effect among employees to build ownership for a quality culture? That is the question.
Thank you, Pratyush. Really appreciate putting a question, and I think the question which you are putting is across any industry and across for any leadership and organization. So, as I said, I think the pull has to be created when, as leadership of the organization, is able to set a vision and align the last man in the line to the vision. Unless the last man in the line is not aligned, he does not see, he does not have a line of sight, and he does not feel that he's contributing to this particular vision, your ability to create that pull will get diminished. And so the pull has to be created in terms of how clear vision you are able to set, A, how clearly you are able to communicate it, how clearly you are able to make the, excuse me, last person in the line align his job or his work, his piece of that small work in the overall big picture, is where you will be able to generate that pull. A. B. Once you are able to do that as an organization as leader, the second part, and this is not the end of it. I'm sorry, this is the beginning of it. Once you do that, the second part then starts beginning in terms of ensuring that the last person in the line, the middle person in the line, and each of them has that necessary skills, capability, know-how in their toolbox when they need to start using it. And then you start working on the cultural piece and the mindset and the willingness piece in terms of how do you generate a sense of pride by through different employee engagement techniques, through different kind of development programs, which are essentially on 70-20-10 principle. How do you structure your reward and recognitions around the whole quality piece of how do you use each and every event of your organization to keep on bringing people back to the point that we are in this business not only for making profits, but we are in this business to ensure that we deliver quality products. And yes, in that process, we definitely will make profit. But that's the kind of messaging, that's the kind of pride if you start, if the leadership is able to build through different methods, tools, and techniques, and also empowering the line managers to keep on reinforcing that and amplifying that. To me, that is where we'll generate the pull. uh, I hope I have answered your questions, but maybe I would be very happy if you can surely add up to the comment and share some of your different and diverse experiences which can enlighten all of us. So thank you very much.
Yeah. So, Ajay, just to add, you talked about the pride for that brand, the alignment of the vision. And if we want to create the pull factor, I think it's very important to also create very strong band of army, quality advocates, army of quality advocates,
Yes.
who are just living the quality all the time. This need not be only with particular band of employees. It could be across the levels, but they are the ones who are so much concerned. And I'm aware of operator in the shop floor area when he was walking towards the canteen, and when the packaging material was getting unloaded, he observed some practice which could create unknown damage to that material, and he went to the supervisor suggesting him that this is how this packaging material might get damaged, and we might use that and ship it to our customers, and that's where the rejections could come up. So that kind of ownership for quality, where I become strong advocate for quality, if we can create those kind of volunteers in the organization by putting special thrust right from their identification through a very careful process, and there after that checking their willingness to be part of this, sensitizing them, helping them to understand the need for this, and then providing right kind of tools and techniques. Well, I'm just coming to another very interesting question which has come up, and I just, since it's addressed to me, Ajay, I'm taking it. It says that what role does leadership or top management play in sustaining a quality culture in the organization? And I just want to of course, Ajay, you also talked about alignment of leadership team with the people, but I just want to give here one example of an organization where their product, I mean, this is very interesting example where uh, a billionaire outside India somewhere, his yacht had some problem. The paint which was there on the yacht, that came out, and as a result, at some place. So obviously, this was a very very important high net worth customer, a VIP customer. The entire organization, the paint which was applied on that yacht, that organization got involved and investigations took place, and they discovered that a particular raw material which was used in that paint had some challenge. So the root cause analysis led them to that particular material. Now, that material was being made by some organization here in India, And I'm aware of a managing director in his open house. Normally, open house or town hall meetings, we have besides celebrations, besides recognitions, there is a lot of discussion about numbers and including number of complaints and the quality and other things. Here, as part of his sensitization drive, he just narrated this whole story to people who were working at the shop floor level, and he really created that kind of sensitization in them as to where are our products getting used and how they are impacting the end customer. And that's where it also helped in creating that kind of pride for the organization, pride for the brand, which Ajay, you were talking to. And therefore I feel important part for us is the quality of communication, the frequency of communication, and the reach of communication that top management or the leadership uses. And this frequency, this depth, this reach will determine the sustenance of quality culture in the organization. Only when the complaint comes to me and I talk about quality, or I talk about quality as a way of life in every single conversation that I have with group of people, that will determine as a leader how much importance I am giving to quality. Often we give a lot of importance to productivity and speed when we talk about, when we have these kind of interactions and conversations. We talk about quality when some challenges come up. But I think the proactive communication about quality will create that kind of sustenance. Well, there are some couple of other more and very useful questions. Ajay, one
I
for
like,
you. Would you like to take that?
yeah, I like the
Quality
question
culture.
for, I like Karan's question. Karan, thank you very
Exactly.
much. Uh, Technology has been something which is very stimulating to me personally. So I know I'm in HR and a guy into pharma. So from that point of view, science technology should keep on simulating people like us. And I'm really happy that you are asking something which is very simulating. So thank you very much. See, the way I look at it, and the plain simple answer to your question would that, let me repeat your question for benefit of others. So Karan's asking me a question is quality culture is crucial for people dimension. However, how can HR leaders leverage the right tech to realize the vision of for a quality culture? So fantastic. And
Very good
we
question.
are, all of us are now in an age where we all have where we all passionately discuss the benefit or the impact of the quality. So I see families and friends discussing the impact of technology, whether it's IT or your mobile phones of different brands or WhatsApp or social media, and all that gets into the whole tech part. But we very passionately discuss the positive impact of it, and also some kind of uh, the impacts which we don't like because of technology. So and this is possibly the most important discussion happening across boardrooms to coffee tables. But coming to your question, the way I would have answered this was that of course HR can influence the organization to deploy some of the best tools and technologies like MI, AI. See that you are the best of the technology to help people take informed decisions instead of doing data crunching to do data analytics, which I'm sure as HR professional at our level, each of us is very clear, and that's fundamental and stated. So, uh, for me, the way I looked at how do I influence the organization is that first and foremost, I may need to help my business leaders who either the technical or business leaders who are trying to find a solution to start thinking about the customer or the consumer first, bring in the elements of design thinking, help them to start looking at what is that value added solution I want to create for my consumer and customer, and if so, what is that product and service, and then go to the features and then go and see which technology can better help them to deliver a product or a service which produces an aha moment rather than saying it meets a quality standard. I think that is where HR can contribute. One, in the whole process journey part of it. The second part, if HR is interested and it's purely people's choice, is that if we consider ourselves to be the change leaders of the organization, we need to have, while looking into the organization, we should also have keep on watching outside the organization. Have basic curiosity in what kind of technologies are coming by into at least our line of business, what our competitors are doing, and maybe at appropriate point of time, just keep on generating that as a simulant. Not that your line leaders wouldn't know about it, but maybe it would be a good idea to bring those kind of things in the conversations when this kind of design thinking workshops or discussions are going on, because that's where possibly as a tech finder and design thinking generator, you are able to contribute to the process of leveraging tech to deliver a better product, either solving it or delivering. So that's my take on that. Thank you.
Okay. In fact, Ajay, I'll just add one of the things on technology piece is also very important, and quite a few tools are now available. Is how can we generate feedback for employee behaviors on the go, and how do we encourage and how do we ensure that those feedback reaches to employees from their reporting managers and from other stakeholders. And I think that's feedback is the breakfast of champions. So make sure that we use right kind of technology to generate that kind of feedback, and that's where we are able to create the pool also for quality. I'm just since we have very less time now, so there are quite a few questions, and I just want to take one or two of them. And there is one very interesting question which has come up, and Ajay, it is addressed to both of us from Sumega. Sunanda, which says, and I'm just reading this question for the benefit of all. As the HR leaders take the first step towards building a quality culture, how can we make sure that there is a continued leadership buy-in and engagement? And I think very, very important. I have seen this challenge being faced by many CHROs and other HR leaders, where leadership buy-in and engagement beyond a point, often there is an issue of speed. So when we put in a lot of efforts for creating quality culture, and if the number of complaints are not getting down, the NCRs, the non-confirmatory reports are not, the numbers are not going down, or those kind of measurements are not showing the kind of result that one is expecting in a short period of time, there could be a chance of someone losing faith on the entire process that we adopted or we recommended for quality culture. Now that's where it's important. Two things. One is, as HR, keep checking pulse of the organization, right from leadership to operator level, about how some of these practices for creating quality culture is really helping the organization, helping them to achieve higher quality. So that's very important part. So keep open to or be open to those feedback. The second important aspect is keep raising red flags, keep raising questions, keep raising observations, especially in leadership meetings, which may lead to discussion about quality. Uh, it may look like, but a good case for HR person to become even a quality champion in the organization. Ajay, what do you say about this question? It's a very interesting one. How do you generate leadership buy-in and engagement? Remember, we have very short time now.
Okay. So Sugandha, we can keep on talking about this very passionately for another hour, but we have very short time. So let me give you. There are three random snippets, and I'll just try to conclude. One, I talk about Uber, and why I talk about Uber is that when we speak about quality, people and leadership always talk about three dimensions: quality, time, cost, and there are always pressures on each of these, and many times when organized under pressure, people tend to say, oh, good quality means cost and time. And Uber is a great example of proving that whole theory wrong. So that's one. Second, to me, the way I look at it, we sometimes when we talk about the organization commitment, we focus again too much on the cost of mistake rather than the opportunity which we generate from a good quality. So that to me is second. Both these dimensions need to be used consistently to influence the leadership in different forms or manner. Two, as Samir says, I think for the rest of the organizations, we need to continuously keep on checking, making the dipsticks, keep on communicating, ensuring that the organization feels empowered to continuously learn from the mistake they make. And there's a continuous learning culture which generates, wherein you build the pride that we are bringing better products and services. So very short, I know it could be long and better, but thank you. Thank you very much for this
Great,
opportunity.
great, Ajay. I think I will have to now ask Reshma to take over. A really, really pleasure talking with you and discussing with this particular topic, which is of passion to both of us. Yeah, Reshma,
Same
you can
here.
take over
Same here. We could have spoken for another 1 hour. Thank you.
now.
Wonderful. I think we can wrap with this question. Any more questions coming in, we would be sharing it with you. Uh,
Sure.
you
There
can
are
take.
few which we could not take up, but we will try to address them later.
Yes, yes, sure.
Yeah.
And thank you. Thanks a lot for that wonderful, insightful session. It was more of a conversation. We did not even feel like we are attending a webcast. Yeah, thanks a
Thank
lot, Mr. Ajay
thank
and
you.
Samir, both of you.
Thank you.
And we
Thank you
would,
very much.
yeah, yeah. And we would also like to thank our partner today, Naman HR. It's a trusted and preferred
Thank you.
HR consulting firm offering
Thank
end-to-end
you.
HR solutions. Yeah.
Thank
And please, for the attendees, please don't forget to give your inputs on the survey link we have posted. Your input matters to us, and we really look forward to many more sessions with you. Thanks a lot.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
All the best. Thank you. Bye bye.